to understand that both these paradigms, they are important. You just cannot ignore, you just cannot separate the two and say that, look, the first paradigm, which focuses on meaning, that is more important, and the other is not. It doesn't work that way. Both the paradigms are important, and you have to make your students understand that. Okay. So, first of all, you see, you have to generate ideas. Ideas generate, they germinate, and later on, you have to expand the ideas. You can write only when you have ideas, when you have thoughts. You know how to expand those ideas. Okay. So the first paradigm, that is important. Now, when you say that, okay, now done with that, form is important, meaning done, form is important. Later on, when you write the second draft, when you write the third draft, you see that, okay, these are things where I need to change. I need to tell my students that, look, your structure, that also is important. You need to work on that. Okay. So this is how there are different stages actually. And if you can focus on all the stages, definitely you are going to benefit. You're going to benefit yourselves, and you can make your students also understand that these are important things and I have to follow that process. Okay. Remember that first you need to have ideas, ideas germinate, and then later on you expand the ideas, and then you follow a process. So initially, you think about having the ideas. Later on, you think about developing the ideas. Right? Okay. Now, when focusing on meaning, ask questions that are all based on a similar thing. Right? And this will actually activate background information. Uh, for example, I mean, if I just can give you some example, uh, if your students, they are talking about the beaches of Chennai, right? So just try to ask some questions, 5 to 10 questions that will encourage students to think about Chennai and the beaches in Chennai. Okay, so what can you ask? You can talk about people who visit those beaches, food that are available, any interesting point where people go. So there can be endless number of questions. Remember that if they are able to frame questions, they can write also. Okay, so that can be developed later on. Is it all right? I hope you understand what I'm trying to make you understand. And you see that later on, when this process is done, later on, you have to make them understand that organizing the ideas, that is very important. Organization of ideas. So they have to learn how to organize the ideas. Only then it becomes a coherent writing. Okay. So it is a process actually. First, ideas come, you think about, then you get supporting details, and then you think about organizing them. So you see, if there is a process, you will see that the end result will be pretty good, pretty satisfactory. But you just need to think, always think before you write. It will take time, but it will be good. You will be satisfied. Okay. And I just want you to do some activities that can actually help you and your students as well. If you can just imagine that you are going abroad, right? And you have to do a short course, and you have to live with a family there. So, what information? What information would you give them about yourself? What information would you want from them? Now, this is something, I'm just trying to give you an example. Okay. So here, what you do, you just have to visualize the situation. Okay. This is the situation. And how can I give information about myself? How can I take information? What questions should I form to write a good letter? Okay. So if you are able to do that, so what do you do? And when you start scribbling, okay, that is the first step. So when you start scribbling, so what do? You just write some words, you just write some phrases. Later on, you develop them into sentences. Okay. And this is what you have to tell your students that look, first, you just have to think about a very small, a very tiny idea. And that idea can later become big. That can become into a sentence. Later, you develop sentences into paragraphs, and then it can become an essay. So it's all about you start and then you keep thinking about it, try to get supporting details, relevant examples, and then you just go on developing it. Right. And you will see that it is quite interesting. It is not at all difficult. See, when you have to teach your students how to write, what do you say? Okay, you start a paragraph, then first you have a topic sentence, and then later on, you will see that there are supporting details. So it all starts with a general idea, and then you have got relevant examples related to that topic sentence. Okay, so it becomes coherent. Okay, so it will take time, but surely you will be able to do justice with yourselves. You will be able to do justice with your students. Okay. Well, I see it's already 7:30, but I'll just take a couple of minutes more and let me just talk about the speaking activities that you can do. You can do with your students that can help you improve. Now, the speaking perhaps is the most difficult of the skills. Why so? Have you ever thought about that? You don't have much time to think if you have to speak. You just have to speak, right? I mean, you don't have to think about everything. You just have to speak in a natural manner. And I think this is the reason it has become the most demanding for learners, how to improve spoken skills. And this may be because of the many characteristics unique to spoken language. What are they? The characteristics of spoken language: reduced forms, contractions, vowel reduction. Sometimes you see the use of slangs that is also there. And of course, I mean, we can never forget the stress. We cannot forget rhythm. We cannot forget the use of signpost, transitions, and so forth. So these are things you need to be aware of. Only then you can improve your speaking. Okay. Remember that English cannot be, you cannot speak English language like a straight line. It is never a straight line. There are ups, there are downs. Okay. So you have to listen to speak back. You have to understand the intonation pattern, right? So how do you learn speaking? That is a very important question. And one thing which I would like all of you to please focus on, and that is to understand something. Now, for example, I'll just give you an example. If there is a picture, right, and you have to speak about that picture, how would you do? It's called a picture prompt activity, actually. Okay, and it's very helpful. How do you do that? You can invite the students to look at the picture and then respond to his or her partner about what they see. Right. So what you can do, you can choose pictures that help the students respond to themes or vocabulary that they will need for more, you can say, formal presentations. Okay, so it's a very good activity, picture prompt. Okay, and you see another thing which they can think about, like there are some phrases, and if you can learn those phrases, if you can make your students learn those phrases, that can be quite interesting. Now, for example, a phrase like, this makes me think that, what? You are actually listening to someone, and then you start your sentence with, this makes me think that. Okay, so this is a good phrase, and I can use it when I have to respond. Okay, and this will be a good practice. So you see, there are different ways to improve the four skills of English language. And one thing we have to remember, that we are not native speakers of English. We use English as a second language. And when we use English as a second language, we have to understand it well before we actually start using this, right? I wish I could go on speaking on the topic, but time doesn't permit me. So I have to cut myself short and I have to stop here. So I just hope that you all could understand what I wanted to say. I just shared a few tips which I myself do and which I think can help you all. So thank you all very much for being here, for listening to me, and hope we can have more sessions in future, right? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Jazakallah, Dr. Sohail Ahmed.